Welcome into Underclassmen. It is bowl season for the 2019 college football season. As always, I'm your host, Cam Mellor, joined by my co-host and, I'd say good friend now, great friend even at this point, Ben Brown. Ben, it's the holiday season, bowl season. How you living?
I'm living well. I'm looking forward to some quality matchups coming up tomorrow already. I know, Army Navy didn't probably... It wasn't, I guess, as intriguing as we hoped for. I think Navy kind of ran away with it. I think that bodes well for how they're sitting heading into their bowl game. But yeah, Malcolm Perry ran for over 300 yards rushing from the quarterback position. It was an impressive performance from them, but that wasn't necessarily a close matchup like a lot of people anticipated, unfortunately. So I'm definitely looking forward to getting into the swing of bowl season here fully here. And we get, a lot of quality matchups in this first week of bowl action. So I'm looking forward to, kind of previewing it, talking about it from some betting perspectives. There's a lot of other great content that's come out on PFF specifically for college. We got a lot of guys working on it, doing some great things. So it's been a fun couple of weeks here at PFF for sure. So
it's been a lot of fun. I'm sure people have noticed the change on the website. There's some things, new authors, old authors coming back up and writing. There's content on the website that you can't literally get anywhere else, and so it's pretty cool. We'll talk about those, but I think, the cream of the crop, the bowl season starts Friday, 2 p.m. What's better than a 2 p.m. game in the Bahamas that features two schools from relatively cold weather, one significantly colder than the other? It's the Bahamas Bowl between the Buffalo Bulls and the Charlotte 49ers. Charlotte's first ever bowl appearance. They got their first ever AP All-American and Alex Highsmith on the defensive edge. This guy is great, a wrecker of offenses, but Buffalo has one of the better running backs in the entire country, and Jarrett Patterson. Kyle Van Treese has been fun for them, kind of finding his groove. They looked like they were going to challenge for the MAC this year, though. This one's fun. Gets them out of their homes, and likely, it's cold in Charlotte now. It's freezing in Buffalo. They're in the Bahamas. They get to have a fun time. There is literally nothing wrong with bowl season.
No, nothing whatsoever. And we actually have, we've been high on Buffalo, I would say, all year. We have them 58th overall in our ELO rankings. Charlotte sits down close to the 90th. So I do think, the 6.5, 7-point spread, I do think if it got to 7, we would essentially not have a play. If you can find this spread at 6.5 for Buffalo, I definitely like it there. I do think that they're probably able to take care of the 49ers there in the Bahamas. Do think, the weather should be perfect. Do have kind of a lower total sitting at 51.5. No play, unfortunately, from a green line perspective for that. But we do have, our offensive rankings for both these teams are very similar. So the only real difference in the ranking system is Charlotte's defense. Unfortunately, we have them sitting at 71st overall. Buffalo has, high quality defense, especially that pass rushing unit. They sit at 27th overall in our defensive rankings. So they are, one of the best units in the country, especially from the group of 5 perspective as well. So I do like Buffalo here quite a bit. Greenline gives them right around a 52.4% cover probability. And I do think that's definitely the spot to target to kick off this bowl season coming up. And yeah, there's nothing better than a day Friday game coming up for college football.
Take the day off from work. Watch the Makers Wanted Bahamas Bowl. I mean, if you're not doing that, I don't know. You're probably not listening here, but you're also.
You can you even consider yourself a college football fan if you're not going to do that? I don't know.
No, and I was on our good friend Matt Collier's show yesterday in Minneapolis, and he was talking about how he loves bowl season, and he takes a lot of flack for it because everybody's like, why would you watch a MAC team play against the Charlotte? What are you talking about? Like, no, this is great football. Where do you also then get to see Kent State versus Utah State? And I mean, if you're on the East Coast, if you're not in the Midwest, if you're not a college football like diehard that's watching Kent State on a Wednesday night in October, I get it. You're probably not ever going to see Dustin Crum and head coach Sean Lewis run a really awesome, fun, exciting offense for the Golden Flashes. And unless you're an NFL draft guru or follow that crazily, you're not going to understand what happened with Jordan Love this year at Utah State, coming in with crazy high aspirations, falling down, not being very good this year, still declaring for the draft, which some have said it is likely a mistake, could have transferred out. Utah State also having multiple drug charges over the past week with apparently fellow students telling and tattling on their teammates or their brethren, their college football brethren. Of that note, I mean, there's intriguing storylines. You can draw them up for every bowl game, but I mean, literally some of them just write themselves. And if we get to see Jordan Love play for Utah State Friday night, against Dustin Crum. You're talking two of our, Jordan Love is Jordan Love, but Dustin Crum nobody knows about. And you need to know this is a guy that could put up over 4,000 yards next season. And head coach Sean Lewis is a coach that will definitely take the leap to Power 5, likely after next season, in my opinion, because he is awesome. Young guy coming from Power 5 pedigree playing days, a guy that will likely be the head coach of one of your favorite programs coming up if you're a Power 5 watcher of football. So watch the Golden Flashes and the Aggies. And I think, we like the under because of these defenses, I think, as well. But if there's some fireworks to be had, it's from the quarterback position.
Yeah, definitely. And this is kind of just a really interesting game because there's just so much uncertainty happening. Obviously, you touched on Jordan Love, the citation for marijuana use in dorm rooms. I think there was, 2 other players involved in that as well. No one's really come out and said if they're going to be suspended. Jordan Love obviously declares for the draft. A lot of times those guys sit out bowl games as well. So there's just a ton of uncertainty hanging over, especially this Utah State Aggies team. The line has definitely moved away from them. It opened right around an 8-point spread. It definitely has jumped down, moved down closer to below a touchdown spread. I think it's sitting at 6.5 points. Our model does like them there. I think if you took out Jordan Love and put it in their backup, we probably lean closer to Kent State, but I do think it'll probably still be a play for Utah State. They're definitely the better team. Kent State's only 112th out of 130 FBS teams in our ELO rankings. We have Utah State much closer to the middle of the pack, sitting at 72nd overall. So I do expect Utah State, if they have all of their players going, to be able to, kind of move away from Kent State, kind of put this game away and actually cover. I do really like the under as well. And again, this is kind of one of those things. I wanted to write up the under 67.5. I wanted to also kind of wait to see what actually happens with this Utah State team, specifically Jordan Love. If he is going to play a full game, if he's going to be suspended for a half, if he's not going to play at all. A lot of those questions still have yet to be answered. I do think that we will potentially get some more clarification, probably moving in even to warm-ups for this game, so maybe that's a spot that you could potentially hit either an under or Utah State side, depending on who's actually warming up with that first team for Utah State coming up here on Friday night.
There's so much about it. There's so much there's intrigue across the board. There's intrigue in games, in every bowl game, if you look in the right places. This one is the one that just absolutely jumps out to you, in my opinion. I mean, we'll see. Utah State's been hot and cold. They looked great during the middle stretch after the LSU game, but before their Boise State game, there's been moments in which they looked good. Also, one of our, the PFF favorite, David Woodward, the linebacker, our All-American linebacker a season ago, did not quite live up to that hype this year. Still had a great year, but paled in comparison to his year a season ago. He also declares early for the draft too. So they're losing, their quarterback on offense and quarterback on defense. And so if they want to go out on a high note, send these guys out. You hope that everybody plays, and you hope that they're at full strength, and you hope that we get a good game in that regard in terms of getting everybody on the field, especially Jordan Love, though.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Utah State kind of started off hot, and then, kind of after the Colorado State LSU game, like you mentioned, they haven't really covered a whole lot. I think they're sitting at 4-5 after their hot start to the season, where they went 3-0 to start. So I don't know. They did cover against our Wake Forest Demon Deacons to start the season as well. And I don't know. They've been kind of teetering off here, and then just didn't really step up at all versus Boise State. Fortunately, they kind of came.
Disappointing year.
Yeah, disappointing year, definitely. I mean, they came back against New Mexico a little bit, but I don't really think that's too.
That's New Mexico.
Yeah, exactly. New Mexico State, I guess they're the forgotten teams of the FBS, but yeah, they kind of get beat up on, unfortunately. So even if you are having a down year, I guess schedule one of those two teams. But yeah, I think I want to say I like Utah State, but I just don't know where, what team is actually going to show up at this point with the other chaos going on. Yeah. It's just, there's too much uncertainty. So it's unfortunate.
It sucks, honestly, because I would love to see Jordan Love in a primetime marquee game and, kind of get everybody else's opinion on it. I like to hit the social media realm when these teams that I've watched as many snaps as possible of all year. And, the consensus of box score junkies on Twitter love to give their 2 cents like they know what the hell they're talking about, and they usually don't. So it's often fun to come in on from the top rope, so to speak, on social media in these days that a Utah State gets finally a marquee primetime game and say, well, see, here's the thing. If you watched all year, you'd have known this, or the opposite way around. So you mentioned it, though. New Mexico. The New Mexico Bowl is the first bowl on Saturday. It's one of our games of the week. It's the San Diego State Aztecs and the Central Michigan Chippewas, the Chips, the MAC runner-up to the Miami Redhawks. But San Diego State, again, another team that they had promise at some points this year. They have a great defense. Ryan Agnew has been a little bit disappointing, grading well, but not doing a whole lot to help them win at the quarterback position. So this one has intrigue, in my opinion, all over it. That over-under, though, at 40.5 doesn't bode well to get people excited.
No, it's going to be, unfortunately, kind of a slugfest, probably a pretty slow-moving game. Of course, we have, the Central Michigan Chippewas ranked 124th out of 130 teams according to our offensive ranking. Obviously, that has some effect on that over-under total as well. We do actually lean slightly towards the over at 40.5, so there is an expectation that we probably see a few more points being scored than what the market currently indicates, but we'll see. It's been interesting. This has been one of the more interesting line movements we have seen since the bowl games came out, and they kind of dropped those opening market prices. I think San Diego State started off right around 6.5 point favorites, so they were sitting just right below that touchdown favorite. They've dropped 3 full points right now. It's kind of settled in closer to a 3.5 point favorite. I do think that is a little bit of an overcorrection towards Central Michigan, so I definitely like the San Diego State Aztecs in this spot. I'm definitely going to side with Austin Gale's alma mater. I do think that they cover.
No wonder it's the game of the week for us.
The game, yeah, exactly. I mean, we should have known at this point, but it is, I think it's going to be a great game. I do think San Diego State's definitely going to cover. Green line gives them right around a 52.9% cover probability. They have by much better offense. They also do have the better defense according to our Massey adjusted defensive rankings. So I do think that they are clearly the better team in this situation. It's just that line movement has me almost a little bit nervous because I'm not quite sure what made that market move so significantly. I try to look for any sort of news, injury, players sitting out, things like that. I really haven't found anything for the Aztecs at this point. So it seems like it's just a spot where we're different than what the current market consensus is. And I guess that's probably fine because we are, we've been high on San Diego State all year. It is a team that we've probably liked in the majority of their games from a betting and spread perspective. So this is just another situation that we can hopefully take advantage of them because they have done, pretty well for us, I guess, throughout 2019 so far. So it should be fun.
Take advantage. It's that should be our slogan. Take advantage. And if you listened, you knew early line movement was a thing. Get in while the getting was good. Our Monday morning podcast, had to make people some money this year if you listened and took heed of advice. Get in while the getting's good. The FAU Owls, the Florida Atlantic Owls, they lose their head coach. They lose the 5th most snaps. This is it. The Cherubundi Boca Raton Bowl between SMU and FAU. Come on. Shane Buechele is the nation's leader in deep passing yards, but just a couple of yards ahead of Joe Burrow. Can set Burrow may have 2 games to take the deep passing crown, which I think he will. But Buechele can air it out, prove why he's a Power 5 guy. This game actually features 2 transfer quarterbacks from Power 5 schools, and Chris Robertson at FAU from Oklahoma and Shane Buechele from Texas. So what could have been the Red River shootout, Red River rivalry matchup, instead we get in the Boca Raton Bowl between these 2 quarterbacks. But on the site as well, we have a snaps returning feature we're going to be rolling out. Talked a little bit about it on a piece that's out today for National Signing Day about which units needed the most help that got it. Hint, it's the Georgia offensive line who has to replace both of their tackles. They signed 2 of the top 19 players in the country, 2 of which are both tackles. So clearly they win. It's not a shocker there if you pay attention at all. Anyways, over 57% of FAU's snaps from this year are gone to either early declarations of the draft or graduation of senior class. Therefore, this is it. FAU, they lose Lane Kiffin as their head coach. They're losing a bunch of players. Send everybody out on a high note because things are going to get a little bit different. I think going forward, you're losing a lot of players. You're losing your head coach. That speaks volume to what Kiffin was able to build. He is now going to Ole Miss. But this game features some fireworks, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I do really like both quarterbacks in this matchup. I have like Chris Robinson all year. Obviously, Shane Buechele, we've talked about extensively on the podcast before. He is one of our favorites. SMU obviously has a high-powered offense. Right now, they rank 24th overall in EPA generated per pass attempt. We have them, a little lower in our offensive ranking, closer to 52nd, but we actually have Florida Atlantic's offense ranked 26th overall, so they are basically twice as good as this SMU offense is right now, according to our opponent adjusted rankings, of course. So it's been good. They've been really high quality. I don't think we've actually taken fully into account Lane Kiffin's departure at this point. It has had a little bit of effect on the line movement. I think Florida Atlantic opened up as 2-point favorites. I think you can find it closer to 3. It even looks like it's 3.5 in some spots. I do think Greenlight would potentially lean towards Florida Atlantic at 3.5. At 3, I'm not really buying into it as much. I do expect Shane Buechele to probably finish off this 2019 season on a high note. Fun little fact, according to, we're releasing an article today on college wins above average. It's kind of very similar to our NFL WAR metric that we had, and James Prochet, wide receiver, was the second highest wins above average player for 2019 that wasn't a quarterback at this point. So it's been fun. They do have, a lot of players on that offensive side of the ball that can, make plays for the SMU Mustangs. I don't think Reggie Robertson is unfortunately going to be able to play, but of course they have James Prochet, which has been the best wide receiver from a wins above average
all right.
perspective at this point.
Let's explain it. Explain it to me like I'm 5.
5. Okay.
Fine. Explain it to me like I'm 4. Wins above average. It's hard enough to get everybody to understand WAR for football, wins above replacement. People just take it as the gospel in baseball, and they see whatever number is good for a pitcher, and they move on about their life. I don't think people truly understand WAR in baseball. We're getting there to helping them understand WAR for the NFL level, but WA in college.
Yep, definitely.
Is there a quick definition?
So it's really, it's honestly really similar to our WAR metric for the NFL. The only real difference is that definition of basically replacement versus average player. In the NFL, a replacement level player, replacement level team would probably sit right around 3 and 13. It's supposed to be one of these guys that you could potentially sign as a free agent off the streets. College, obviously, there's a little bit different of an aspect going on there. It's, not necessarily a replacement level player. I think a replacement level player at this point would probably be, me or you walking onto a Division I school or something trying to play some football, which probably wouldn't end too well at this point. But average over the course of a season, it would essentially be a player who had no positive graded or negative graded throws from our PFF grading perspective. So imagine a offensive lineman or a cornerback who had no negative plays, no positive plays. That would essentially be what we would define as an average FBS player at this point. We're basically taking that as the basis, and we're defining based on PFF grades how much better or worse a player did throughout the course of a season, specifically 2019 in this case, to highlight just how valuable or how much value they actually added overall to their team wins. So it's it's a similar concept to what they use in baseball. Of course, it's very similar to what we have developed for our NFL version. It just takes into account a slightly different base as far as what we are, starting point for what we're actually defining as, what's average, what's replacement, things like that. So it is, an interesting metric, and it is one that's supposed to definitely highlight value, potentially where, a lot of people aren't seeing it when you're just looking at, random box score stats and other things like that. So it's definitely something we will hopefully be utilizing going forward. But yeah, James Prochet had a great 2019 season. I think he was a little, undervalued according to every other metric, but he did grade really well for us, and he has contributed immensely to this Mustangs team. So he definitely sits high in our wins above average.
It's interesting. You can even go back at this use case specifically. We talked about it in a big time catch moment. Prochet caught the game winner in triple overtime against Tulsa. This guy that is well above replacement, well above average. That catch, he won them the game. That is a catch that only 5 or 6 receivers in college football make. Prochet makes it. It's probably not very common that these guys that are that high have an actual evidentiary piece of tape from this season that you can say, wow, okay, I get it. He's well above average. Cue up the tape. Search James Prochet, SMU versus Tulsa overtime catch, and it will pop up. There are people dissecting it on YouTube in terms of how amazing this catch is. So it's what a use case, what an example actually to pull out, to have that moment from the 2019 season fresh in everybody's heads, because if that doesn't explain it to you, I don't really know what does.
Yeah, and obviously, that one specific catch didn't get him all his, combined total of wins above average, but overall in the season he did contribute basically, one win above what an average wide receiver would have done for the SMU Mustangs at that point. So taking into account that fact, it is very, it is interesting to see and look at and kind of, piece together the season that he actually had, and it was very productive and it was great to see. So it's, the article's coming today. I'm really excited about it. It's been a lot of fun to kind of work with Eric Eager, who, put together both the college and NFL WAR metrics as well. So it's been fun to watch. There's some definitely interesting nuggets that we have as far as data for the PFF era, which goes back to 2014. So we just kind of tried to talk through, probably some, undervalued players, some people that were probably not as known in college football circles, or at least weren't known and talked about, in some of these Heisman Trophy discussions when they, potentially could have been at that point with, understanding of our metric and how valuable they actually were to their team on that season. So it'll be fun. It'll be something that we'll definitely introduce and discuss going forward. It's something that we can also use to kind of identify, team level information as far as how much better a team is, if there's, been a level of or amount of luck that's played into some of their wins and losses and things like that. So it's definitely a metric we're going to be using to assign strength to an overall team as well, and we'll probably incorporate it into some of our green line models and things like that. So
now we're talking.
Back
to green line. That's awesome, and I'm excited to read it. I've seen snippets and I've seen some charts that Eric had, so I'm pretty excited to read the full thing. Back though to the best time of the year. It's bowl season. The FBC Mortgage Cure Bowl in Orlando, Florida. Been there a time or two before in my life. Pits two schools that are crazily different. Georgia Southern runs the ball 75% of the time. Stephen Calvert and the Liberty offense throw the ball, sure, 57% of the time, but they throw it deep almost 30% of the time. So this is an offense that you will see Antonio Gandy Golden, their star receiver, in the NFL playing. All this guy does is just grade positively. He may not be the quote sexiest to do it at the receiver position, but this guy on go routes, no matter how you filter it out into our receiver route buckets, whether it's a stop and go, it's just a straight go, a seam route, a back shoulder go, an end zone fade, it does not matter how you break down where Gandy Golden, AGG, gets his targets on these straight line routes. This dude is the best in college football on these go routes. You will see multiples of these against the Georgia Southern corners, and however they choose to guard him. Watch out, Buckshot Calvert, quarterback. Yes, his nickname is Buckshot. If you have not heard or seen Liberty this year, Hugh Freeze has turned this Liberty offense into something even higher than what I thought they could have been a year ago. They are super fun to watch. If they had a little bit better on defense, they'd be even more fun to watch. But this offense is awesome. And then you get to see the complete opposite. Georgia Southern will grind you out. Shea Wertz and their sort of hybrid option offense they run is also fun to watch if you're a college football fan.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm surprised Liberty sits 31st overall in our offensive ranking system. So they have definitely exceeded expectations, especially from an offense perspective. In my opinion, I do think that bettors have started to kind of back them as well. We have seen both this spread move from a 6-point spread, when it first opened, all the way down to 4 points at this point. Right now, I think Liberty probably isn't really a play at that point. I think it would have been one if you could have gotten at that 6-point spread that when it opened. Over under sits at 58.5. I think that opened right around 56. So it sounds like the market seems like it's going to buy into the ability of Liberty to at least score some points against this Georgia Southern defense that we have ranked 48th overall at 58.5. We do like the under. But yeah, this is basically going to come down. It's kind of a strength on strength matchup. Liberty offense versus Georgia Southern defense. Who actually wins that battle is probably going to determine who actually wins this bowl game. So I'm excited. I do think it could be, intriguing matchup. And Antonio Golden Gate, he's worthwhile to tune in to this game just to watch him play at this point, because I definitely agree with you. I do think we are going to see him put on, the occasional show on NFL Sundays here coming up to not too soon. He's one of these smaller school guys that has a lot of potential, and one that's going to be, drafted relatively highly, at least in the upcoming draft at this point.
It is a crazy talented receiving core available in the draft this year, but Gandy Golden this dude is awesome to watch. So get him while you can. It is terrific to watch. So the next one up as well, the next bowl game here. This one, again, if you followed us, you know that this is exciting. The Camellia Bowl in Montgomery, Alabama, Florida International, Arkansas State. This is a game. Lane Hatcher quarterbacks the Red Wolves for Arkansas State. He's a Alabama transfer. He has Omar Bayless, who was at one point leading at basically every category in receivers, targets, receptions, yards, an All-American. Awesome season for Bayless. Awesome season for Kirk Merritt as well. Their defense has seemingly struggled. Their offense can't quite keep up with the pace that they have. They're great in the Sun Belt. This is a really fun one to sort of gauge the mid-tier powers, so to speak, the mid-tier teams of the Conference USA and the Sun Belt. So to see these receivers go up against arguably one of the better secondaries of the Conference USA that FIU has. They have Dorian Hall, who has an elite grade this year. Stanley Thomas Oliver, one of the better cornerbacks in terms of limiting completions and yards after the catch. And then Josh Turner, a guy who does not have a lot of snaps but has crazy great sticky coverage skills. So these two guys in the back end and then Dorian Hall sort of free roaming around the secondary area. This is a team that can shut down this Arkansas State passing attack. So this one has some intrigue in terms of watching Bayless go up against arguably maybe one of the better secondaries that he's going to face or have faced not only this year, but basically in his entire career.
Yeah, definitely. And, both of these teams have been teams that we've actually backed at certain points throughout 2019. I think we backed Arkansas State a couple times. Fortunately, they didn't really get there for us. Florida International did come through for us. Right now, Greenline does lean towards Florida International. We do have their offense ranked probably a little lower than expected at 74th overall. They do have the 21st best EPA per pass attempt in the country. So there's a little bit of discrepancy there. I do think that the Golden Panthers are going to be able to move the ball a little bit against Arkansas State here, and I do like them to probably cover this 2.5 point spread. Defensively, both these teams play pretty well. I think we have Arkansas State sitting at 43rd overall in our defensive ranking, Florida International 39th. So could expect to see just a little bit less points than the current 63-point total as well. But I think a lot of that's going to come down to how well Arkansas State's able to move the ball against Florida International. And we'll see if they are able to do that or not here coming up. Arkansas State does have EPA per pass attempt sitting right around 0.10. So it should be interesting matchup as well, and it's one I'm excited for. I do like Florida International here, so it's definitely a spot that I'm backing the Golden Panthers here coming up on Saturday.
Like it. How could you not with the Golden Panther as your logo? Take a cat, big cat over a big dog any day. Come on, if you've seen the videos on National Geographic, big cats can pull crocodiles out of the water in their home territory. What can a big panther do to a wolf? I'm sorry. Anyways, I digress on mascots.
I digress.
We're going to come back to the Las Vegas Bowl because that one is fun to talk about a little bit more in depthly. The R&L Carriers New Orleans Bowl. App State versus UAB. UAB leading the country with 92% of their targeted passes, yards, and receptions all leaving. So this is it. They have a talented receiving core they need to get the ball to. Tyler Johnston III, if he's healthy and plays a full game here, this is a guy who you can't call him Brett Favre, obviously, but this is a gunslinger by that Brett Favre motive, I guess, or motif, so to speak. Over 9% of his throws are big-time throws, but over 8.2% of his throws are turnover-worthy play. He is the definition of boom or bust. This guy, fine, if you want to not have Brett Favre as your example, I think Eric said it too. Jameis Winston.
I like that comp. Yeah.
He's gonna throw this crazy tight rope through three defenders 30 yards down the field, and you're gonna say, "Holy cow, this guy can throw!" And then he's gonna throw a screen pass that hits the dirt, and or fumble,
or the defensive lineman.
Exactly.
Yeah. This
is gonna be one of the. It's a confusing study to watch Tyler Johnston. He has the throws that make you literally say, "Wow." for both reasons. Wow, oh my God, he's great. And wow, how do you make that kind of throw? So this one, App State gets to prove that they are, worthy of potentially being in that conversation of the best group of 5 team from this season. If they go out and utterly dismantle UAB, rightfully saying, hey, we could have made it to the Cotton Bowl over Memphis. But App State, Zach Thomas, they have to contend against the gunslinger if he's healthy, and Tyler Johnston.
Yeah, definitely. I do think he's probably going to be able to go. I guess I didn't know exactly what was going on with UAB Blazers quarterback position here towards the end of the season. I know Tyler Johnson seemed to be at least healthy or suited up in a lot of games, but they weren't actually giving him the full go for the last couple of weeks. I do expect that he'll probably play a full amount of snaps here in this bowl game, but we'll see. It definitely could turn into a defensive battle. Both of these teams rank, Appalachian State 16th overall in our defensive ranking, UAB's 13th overall. I think they sit right around 28th in the country in pass defense EPA allowed per pass attempt. So this one, could be a little bit of a battle. I think Appalachian State's probably going to move the ball running as opposed to potentially maybe throwing as much. I do think they've had quite a bit of success doing that. 17-point spread, I would lean slightly towards UAB, but again, this is a spot that the Mountaineers could definitely roll. I do like what you kind of said. I do think that they're probably going to play quite well. I do think they want to prove that they were potentially that best team in the group of 5 that probably should have gotten into the Cotton Bowl and were left out for, various reasons, basically one letdown at this point in their middle of the season. So it'll be a fun group of 5 matchup. These are, 2 teams that I have been high on all year from that group of 5 team. I think the Blazers have been basically the underclassmen's favorite team to back at this point. It worked out very well for us early in the season when Tyler Johnston turned into maybe the bad version of Jameis Winston. It hasn't gone as well, unfortunately, but that's the fun thing, and that's the reason you got to tune in, is because you never know what you're actually going to get at this point from Tyler Johnston. So it could be intriguing just from that perspective as well. So if you enjoy Jameis Winston style football, definitely tune into this UAB Blazers versus App State bowl game to get
400 yards, 4 touchdowns, but 3 picks and a bad fumble in the pocket. Yep, got it.
And he'll probably do it on 10 completions or something like that.
It happens. Quick fun note, too. The R&L Carriers New Orleans Bowl, the title sponsor, R&L Carriers, their headquarters is off of I-71 in between Cincinnati and Columbus. How I know that? Yes, I drive often between Cincinnati and Columbus, and you see the giant headquarters. It looks like a crazy, awesome campus. That's it. Off my tangent, I digress back to football again. The Mitsubishi Motors Las Vegas Bowl. This rounds out the Saturday slate. This is probably the one that everybody's going to be watching. This one also screams intrigue without you having to really dive too far into it. Chris Peterson, head coach for one more game of the Washington Huskies before he steps into his admin role and Jimmy Lake takes over. Chris Peterson's former team, where he came from, Boise State, they get to face off against each other. Washington versus Boise State in the Mitsubishi Motors Las Vegas Bowl, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. This one has marquee matchup written all over it for that reason, but also for this talented, crazy talented defense that the Washington Huskies have going up against arguably the Power 5 or the Group of Five's better offense in terms of how they've gotten their play done this season. They've had a crazy great start to the year with Hank Bachmeier, true freshman quarterback, and then they've gotten plus play from Chase Cord and now Jalen Henderson. So plus play from 3 quarterbacks only bodes well for your future, but also for how well you've been able to recruit at Boise State. So this one, Boise State can prove that they're up there as well and deserving of not only Mountain West dominance, but also, hey, we're also still here, guys. We're a top 25 team.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we get an early top 25 matchup. We still have Washington and Boise State sitting in our top 25. Of course, Washington underperformed, I would say, here in 2019, especially with what we expected them to actually accomplish. So this is, a very intriguing matchup. It does seem like, Washington opened up right around 3-point favorites. It has slid out to 3.5. They did gain the hook here, closer to game time. So if you can find that 3.5-point spread, I definitely like it for Boise State. We do give them at that price of 53.2% cover probability. I do think that's definitely a spot where they could get it done. Washington, they could be emotional. I don't know how well they'll play with Chris Peterson's last game, but, maybe they finally actually put it together here. They are very talented, so they are capable of, I would say playing with or potentially blowing out almost any team in the country. So maybe they prove that this week, but I don't really think that's necessarily the game script that how this is going to play out. So I would side with Boise State Broncos. I do think they are able to get it done against, Washington's 5th overall ranked defense. I think they'll score enough points to at least cover the 3.5 point spread here. So it should be a fun match, but I do agree. I think a lot of people will probably be tuning into this, December 21st game. Unfortunately, I think it'll be competing a little bit with some of that NFL action we have coming up on Saturday night as well. But it's definitely a spot you can flip back and forth quite a bit if you want to get your full fix of football in here before the holidays really set in. So
get out of here. How can you watch NFL football when you have Washington versus Boise State on? Come on.
I hear you. I'm with you. I'm just saying, the casuals. This
is fantasy football's like, this is it. This is the weekend. This is the championship weekend.
I think this is week 16. Yeah,
but it's Saturday. You still have Sunday games. Come on.
Yeah. I know that. I think they have like 3 games on Saturday or something.
I think Bucks and Patriots are playing in 2 of their games. I think. Look, this is how far removed I am. This is how deep I am to the bowl season that I couldn't tell you who the first Saturday games in the NFL this year. First time probably. Maybe since I was 2 that I couldn't tell you that there is a Saturday NFL game and who's playing. We're Thursday. This is 2 days before games will be played. I used to, wait for those Saturday games in the NFL slate. So I understand where you're coming from. I understand where people will be coming from. So maybe if you're listening now and you understand that, hey, college football is still the better of the 2, in my opinion.
Better product, yep. It's fun to watch. Yeah, I think Rams 49ers is on at 8:15, so it's a full slate of West Coast football action at least, so it should be fun. But yeah, definitely go with Boise State at this point. That's what the side I'm leaning, the side Green Line leans, and I think they will potentially get the cover here in a big, maybe not a victory, but at least a cover spread. So give them right around a 42% win probability. So it should be a fun matchup. Do you have any leans specifically on this game?
No, I don't. I'm nervous to pick between these two and like a mid-tier Pac-12 team versus a top-tier Group of 5 team. I still would side for Washington to cruise. I think that Jacob Eason has enough in him to be the significantly better quarterback, whomever Boise State puts out there. So that was where but I would also stick away. Like, if anybody knows Chris Peterson, what they're going to do, it's Boise State. The way that they're coached and the way that they prepare for things, I see them also being way too competitive for this one, and they have a lot of talent. So it's one I'm going to enjoy watching and stay away from. When I'm going to back my Knights again, though, this Monday. This is also a game that you need no excuse. There's no reason not to watch. Monday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern. If you're on the West Coast, this is an 11:30 kickoff. How #blessed are you on the West Coast if you can just flip on, if you're at work on the 23rd, just throw the stream on your computer, throw the stream on the TV. Hey, guys, it's Christmas Eve. Let's have the UCF Knights. Let's be, again, #blessed to watch Dylan Gabriel and the UCF Knights, because that's what you are. If you haven't watched them this year, there's something wrong with you, and you need to get a CT or a CAT scan or whatever they are. Go out there, fix yourself, fix your brain, because UCF is must-watch football. Even if you've had a down year of multiple losses this year, let's face facts here. This was a team that still just 3.5 years ago, essentially, at this point, hadn't won a game all year long. So for them to still be in this nationally known spot that the UCF Knights are in, go ahead, go watch them. If Gabriel Davis plays at wide receiver too, he's declared earlier for the draft, he may sit out. I haven't seen anything about that. But if Gabe Davis can play, watch one of the better Group of 5, one of the better receivers in all of college football in action one more time when UCF beats Marshall. Plays Marshall, but...
Plays Marshall. There's 17.5 point spreads. It does seem like the market is buying into your UCF Knights here a little bit. I think they opened up right around 16.5 points. So we'll see that it bumped about a full point. It did cross a key number 17 at this point. At that price, unfortunately, I have to side with Marshall. The Thundering Herd. Greenlight gives them right around a 53.3% cover probability. It's just, a ton of points to be laying at this point. I do think these teams aren't necessarily that evenly matched, but, their defensive units sit at 30 and 31st overall on our defensive rankings. So the key differentiator, of course, is going to be UCF's offense, which we have ranked 14th overall, versus Marshall's 62nd ranked offensive rating. So this one, I do think UCF's going to score some points. I do think they'll probably win pretty comfortably. We do give them right around an 87.7% win probability. It's just covering that 17.5 point spread might be a little bit more of a stretch, but I could definitely see them winning, right around by 2 touchdowns or something like that. Maybe Marshall gets one of those late covers of things that we always talk about to see to kind of, swing the spread in their direction. Who knows? But 17.5 feels like a little bit too much to be laying on UCF at this point. So I think it's either a Marshall play or an avoid, or if you are a diehard UCF fan, I guess you could play, from that angle as well if you really want to. But I do expect these defenses to potentially win out in a lot of these position battles, and we'll see. I do think the under is also in play. It sits right now at 62 point total. We give that undercover probability right around a 53.4% chance of winning. So I don't know. Do you have any lean, I guess, on the under at least? Do you expect UCF's offense to roll, or what do you?
I'll go under, but I would go at a demonstrative win for UCF in terms of 38-7. Because
38-7.
Marshall's going to have to throw on them, and if you throw Tay Gowan's way, this is a guy who allowed 40% of the throws his way to be caught and didn't allow a catch longer than 26 yards at all this year. Does not get penalized for pass interference. This is a guy who underrated. If he comes back, if he makes the leap, also this is a guy in like the day 3 sleeper range where somebody, if they've done their homework, will know that this is a guy that can play in the NFL. He's a big dude, tall, adds some muscle to him in the NFL ranks, and this is a starting outside cornerback in the NFL that's playing for UCF. So I mean, when you've gotten to go up against Traquan Smith last year and then Gabe Davis this year, all through practice, you're going to get better as a cornerback, and that's just what's happened. It's kind of the old iron sharpening iron type expression. Tay Gowan is a must-watch. If he comes back and plays next year for them, then you're talking the American has 2 of the better cornerbacks coming back to play in USF's KJ Sales and then Tay Gowan from UCF. So those are 2 guys to keep on the radar for future. If Gowan does declare for the draft this year, which he could or may have teased. So we'll see. But yeah, under, because you're not going to be able to throw on him or the rest of that UCF defense. They've really kind of buckled down as of late. That Cincinnati game kind of a weird game in terms of, Ahmad Gardner has the pick 6, and Cincy wins in terms of that, kind of getting away from them there. So UCF, I think, still much the better team. Let's round out this early slate of games. We're going to go all the way to Christmas Eve here. The last game, Christmas Eve, a home game for the Hawaii Warriors taking on BYU and underclassman favorite quarterback Zach Wilson. Well, second favorite quarterback if you don't count Brock Purdy.
Can't count Brock Purdy there. Yeah.
Not yet. In this week, probably our favorite quarterback, Zach Wilson, BYU making the trip out Christmas Eve, Hawaii Bowl against Hawaii. Again, another gunslinger in action. Cole McDonald. A lot of big-time throws, a lot of turnover-worthy plays. I think he actually led the country in total turnover-worthy passes this season as well, but was like 3rd or 4th in total big-time throws as well. So this is fun. I think there'll be some points scored in this game as long as BYU can keep up with Hawaii, but I don't think either defense can stop either one of these offenses.
No, and definitely, the market has essentially leaned towards that line of thinking right now. Total sits at 64 points. I think it opened right around 62, so we have picked up 2 full points since it kind of opened. At that price, Green Line kind of leans slightly towards the over. Unfortunately, it's not enough to beat the VIG price that we'd have associated with that play. So, I don't know. I think if we got a little bit line movement back, 63.5, I think would definitely be in play. If you want to buy a half point or something like that, I'm not really sure it's worth it at this point. But the 2-point spread that has come down a little bit as well. Hawaii is, opened up as a field goal dog at home. They've moved down to 2-point spread. I think BYU is definitely the better team according to our ELO rankings. We have them 61st overall. Hawaii sitting close to 73rd. So we'll see. It is basically going to come down, strength versus weakness at this point. BYU's offense 23rd overall in our opponent adjusted ranking. Hawaii's defense 108th overall in our defensive adjusted ranking. So if BYU is able to move the football, I think they're definitely going to be able to cover this spread relatively comfortably. And I do think that if they do that, we could see this total fall here pretty quickly as well in a game that could kind of turn out into a shootout here in Hawaii, which would be a fun spot to be at. So it'll be good.
It could be a lot of fun, I think, watching those 2 quarterbacks. They're very differing styles, but Zach Wilson can put the ball in the air deep down the field if he wants to and might need to. So a lot of fun. That was just 40-plus minutes of only one Power 5 team. So if you think we're diehards, and if you think we're nuts, just wait till we go in on the next week of bowl games and next week's show when we discuss every game that has a Power 5 team at least in it going forward throughout the bowl season. That will encompass to the College Football Playoff. We've talked about them a little bit, but we'll have more of the semifinals for the College Football Playoff next week as well. So enjoy bowl season. Go out there, make some money if you can on some of these bets, but also just enjoy, the fact that you get a MAC team going up against Charlotte at 2 o'clock on a Friday. Enjoy this time of year. It doesn't happen but once a year. Go enjoy it. Enjoy all the holidays as well. Are there any comfortable covers, any moments, any one last thing of this first slate of bowl games that you want to say that you're pretty strong about, or that you're going to write up so we can tease and maybe, get people to the website?
Yeah, I do like San Diego State quite a bit. We did write them up already, 3.5 points. I do think they are able to get it done against Central Michigan. A lot of the other plays, it's kind of difficult. I do want to say I like Utah State as well. Unfortunately, I just can't commit to that at this point. I do think if we get some clarification before game time, it's definitely a spot that you could hop on. I do think we'll probably see some line movement once it's officially announced who's actually the starting quarterback for Utah State. So it could be a spot if you're kind of tuning into pregame, you're not doing much except for just waiting in heavy anticipation for this Friday night matchup. I think that's going to be a spot where you could definitely target, Boise State versus Washington. I don't feel as good about backing Boise State. Definitely think, my thinking is along the lines of what you said earlier. I think, Washington's going to play well in Chris Peterson's last game. They also are just, very high rated team, probably higher than what we should have them, but I do think that is just related to the talent that they have and how well they actually do grade. It's just they've had some unfortunate turnovers at inopportune times, especially with Jacob Eason and things like that cost them some early season victories, and I think that's reflected in their overall win-loss total, which is kind of probably skewed towards that downside in the season, that they haven't been quite as bad as a lot of people would read into just based on that. So I don't know, I'd probably avoid Boise State at this point, but we'll see. It could be, another spot if you're looking to get in on some action. If you have a good Friday night slate of action, you don't really want to tune into the NFL games on Saturday, then I would pick a spot for Boise State there on Saturday night. So it'll be good. I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited for this week one, and we'll probably be back right around Christmas time to give you some more previews heading into those New Year's Eve, New Year's Day bowl games coming up here as well. So a lot of college football still to come, even though the regular season is over. It's the most wonderful time of the year. It is officially bowl season coming up tomorrow.
It really is. It's the most wonderful time of the year. Again, I'm going to harp on it. It's Friday at 2 p.m. of a work week. Throw on the football game and enjoy. Live long and prosper. Live, laugh, love. Even take your slogan that's on your mother-in-law's house wall. I don't care. Do what you will. I will say, talking about the signing day, I made a bet with Mike Renner. If Chubba Purdy, Brock Purdy's little brother, who just flipped his commitment from Louisville to Florida State, takes the Seminoles to a national championship, we said win, but or maybe you said appearance. We'll iron out the terms, but I will be adding a tattoo of the last name Purdy if the younger Purdy brother takes FSU back to the promised land after they flipped. So I'll be
that would be Purdy special, I think.
Thank you very much. See, I'm sure I gave Renner the discretion to be able to kind of dictate where and what it says, but as long as it has Purdy in it, I think we'll that's what happens. That's the bet that laid on the terms, because I was very high on the fact that Mike Norvell, head coach at FSU, has brought back the Seminoles at least into some sort of semblance of national power, national attention, at least. They're not a power by any means at this point, but at this rate, when the previous regime recruits and signs one quarterback in 18 months and Norvell is on the job for 8 days and signs two, you understand from the analytics standpoint, quarterback is the most important position. You can never have too many. He's brought in two already in 8 days. You get that he's going and taking the program to the right direction just by those simple moves alone. So when you can add the family favorite of the underclassmen and of the Mellor family in terms of the last name, the younger Purdy, I'm all for it. I'm here for it. What a family, though. Starting quarterback at Iowa State and then likely the starter for Florida State over the next 2 or 3 years. So
if he's half as good in his freshman year as Brock Purdy was at Iowa State, I mean, they're going to have a significant turnaround here coming up in 2020. So
I'm here for
it. We'll see if they crown him the starter here or not. I'm not too sure what else they have in the pipeline, but it could be an interesting battle here coming into preseason camp and spring practice, I guess, at this point. So
to say I'll be all over it will be an understatement. Maybe get a trip to Tally out of it too as well. Go my old stomping grounds and hit up California.
Get some interviews in. in. You could get a Purdy interview down there as well.
Now we're talking. California Chicken Grill, hit Gordo's, hit all of the old stomping ground food places as well. Tallahassee is the food mecca of the South. If you've never been, saddle up and go get some delicious food in Tallahassee, Florida. That being said, I'm all for it. We'll do a live podcast from my old apartment right across the street from Doak Campbell Stadium.
Let's do it. I would like to go probably in the winter time if you can, but if so,
it's fine.
Count me in.
March is still winter for you, so therefore it'd be nice in Tally. It does get to the teens and sometimes in Tallahassee, but not in March. March, you're talking 70s, 80s.
So. Yeah, the teens feel like a heat wave in Minnesota even in March. So
stop. That's gross. All right. On that note, again, we digress. Enjoy the holiday season, enjoy bowl season, and enjoy some Saturday NFL action as well. For Ben Brown, I am Cam Mellor. This was Underclassmen.